Anybody? We have some participants. Oh, Ahmed is here in the.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Did you end up applying through the Board Veterans Office too?
They did, and I've been seeing their emails and I haven't done anything about it yet. How are you?
Yeah, I just got my first email today.
Oh, okay.
I saw.
Yeah,
It's just-
there was one other. No, just the one today, I think. They
Yeah.
needed something.
Do they need something? Okay,
Oh,
I
maybe
just
your
saw it
next
come in.
one. Yeah, this was my second one, so maybe the next one is.
Yeah,
gonna
you
come
probably
in a minute.
submitted.
All right, should we hit record? It's recording, okay.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Good evening, and thank you for coming to CEC 15's April business meeting. Today is Tuesday, April 8th. I'm CEC President Antonia Ferraro Martinelli, and I'll be calling this meeting to order at 6:41 p.m. We're coming from 131 Livingston Street. It looks like we do have some people in the chat. We have about 12 participants in the chat. And I will just add the link in the chat for people who are attending remotely to please sign our attendance sheet. Thank you very much. Before I call the roll, I'm going to turn it over to the interpreters to introduce themselves. Ready? Is it? Let's start with the Chinese interpreter.
Hi, everyone. This is the Chinese Mandarin announcement. 大家好，我们今天有国语翻译，如果需要翻
Can they
译
hear，us？
请拨打347-966-4114，然后 ID 号码是
Is the L working？
948-347-347-9。
Oh, let's
It's on. I
pause
see
for a
the
minute.
picture here.
We are
Yeah.
not hearing any of the interpreters.
Yeah, because
Can the interpreters hear me?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. if she can
Because
hear us,
someone
but
was
we can't
speaking
do
at the
that.
same time. I can't, while I was doing my announcement, so.
Did this thing actually come on?
The camera's working.
The camera is working.
Yeah.
Everything lit up.
Everything's lit up.
Can one of the other interpreters try to speak to see if we can hear you?
Hello,
Yes,
can you hear me?
I think they can
No.
hear me. Can you hear me? Anyone
Thank
can hear
you.
me?
We can hear you.
I don't
And
think
this
we
is
can hear
Pontin from
anybody.
Bangla interpreter.
Anyone can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, we
Spanish
can hear
language.
everyone. I can hear.
So because while I was
I'll
doing
try
the
again.
announcement, right? Somebody else
Well, we could just
is talking at the same time.
Ask-
That's why they can't hear me.
can hear you. What happened?
It wasn't connected to that microphone.
Oh, okay. All right, let's start with the Chinese interpreter. Thank you.
各位大家好，如果需要听普通话翻译，请拨打347-966-4114，会议 ID 是948-347-347-9。重复一次哈，如果要听普通话翻译，请拨打347-966-4114，会议 ID 是948-347-347-9，谢谢。Mandarin announcement is complete.
Thank you so much. And Spanish?
Buenas tardes, para escuchar la reunión en el idioma español, por favor marquen el número de teléfono 646-964-1167 e ingresen el código de acceso 161-109-1947 numeral. Repito, para escuchar la reunión en el idioma español, llamar al número de teléfono 646-964-1167 e ingresar el código de acceso 161-109-1947. Thank you.
And Bangla?
শুভ সন্ধ্যা বাংলাভাষী যারা আজকের এই অনুষ্ঠানে উপস্থিত আছেন এবং আপনারা যদি বাংলায় এই অনুষ্ঠান শুনতে চান অনুগ্রহ করে ডায়াল করুন 347-966-4114। আমি আবারও বলছি 347-966-4114। এরপরে আপনার কাছ থেকে আইডি চাওয়া মাত্র ডায়াল করবেন 996-597-563 এবং #। আমি আবারও বলছি আইডি চাইলেই আপনারা ডায়াল করবেন 996-597-563 এবং #। ধন্যবাদ। Thank you. The Bengali announcement is over.
Thank you so much. All right, I'll call the roll. Antonia Ferraro Martinelli, yes, I'm present. Leslie King is absent. Vanessa Gonzalez, wrote in that she wouldn't be able to come. Nancy Cruz also wrote in. Tina Rogers,
Present?
Jonathan Davis.
Present.
Hans Arietta, is absent, and Alda Chumney is absent, and I haven't heard from Nancy Randall or Kwame Egerton. We do not have quorum for this meeting, so we will not be able to vote on anything. Katina, would you like to read the introduction to CEC 15?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you all for coming to the District 15 Community Education Council meeting tonight. We appreciate your time and we're glad you could join us. For those of you who are new to CEC meetings, there are 32 CECs throughout the city, plus 4 citywide councils. Each CEC represents a community school district, and each is made up of 12 volunteer members, 10 of whom are elected by parents in the district. The remaining members are appointed by the Brooklyn Borough President, plus 2 high school student members. CEC 15 is a state-mandated public body responsible for ensuring that public school parents and the public have input in educational decisions that are made at the school district level. Our council reviews education policies and advocates for high-quality education that benefits all of our District 15 public elementary and middle school students. CEC 15 serves 38 elementary and middle schools, 3 pre-K sites, and 1 high school under the oversight of our superintendent. CEC members serve in an advisory role on education matters to the district superintendent, the chancellor of the Department of Education, and to state and city elected officials. We approve district school zoning lines submitted by the Department of Education. We evaluate our district superintendent. We review the district's educational programs and we support school leadership teams. We also submit recommendations for the School Construction Authority's annual capital plan. And as of recent amendments to the law, CEC is advised in the selection of parent coordinators. We actively seek input and feedback from the public and encourage you to visit our website, cecd15.org, and write to us about any issues you may want to address or learn about. Each school has a CEC liaison, and all of our names and contact information are available on our website.
All right, great, and I'll turn it over to the parliamentarian.
Wonderful. Tonight's business meeting is in person and will include a public comment period. We will take both remote and in-person comments to gather additional feedback from our families and school community members. You may leave your camera on, or for your own privacy, if you prefer, you may use audio only during the comment period and throughout the meeting. Rules of engagement. When you comment, please comment on the topic. Respect the privacy of others, and please do not include names of children or staff. Guests who make inappropriate comments will be removed from the meeting. During the public comment period, those attending virtually may raise their hand to comment or indicate in the chat that they would like to speak. Those called upon will be unmuted. If you are attending in person, you must sign the guest attendance sheet and indicate whether you would like to comment. Speakers will be called on one at a time and will be allowed 1 minute each for comment. We will hear as many speakers as the time allows. It is possible that not every comment and/or question will be given time. So the best way to get your question answered is always to write to the CEC at cec15@schools.nyc.gov. CEC members will also be given a comment period. Members will be called upon and are each permitted 1 2-minute comment and or question. If members do not have a comment, they may cede their time to the chair.
Okay, great. The next thing on our agenda was to vote on some minutes. We don't have quorum to do that, so we will move those minutes to the next agenda. Our next calendar meeting, I believe, is April 28th or 29th. 29th.
29.
Yes. So I'm going to move on to the president's report. So I'm going to share some brief updates, and then we're going to read the response from the School Construction Authority to our resolution. My first update is that Chancellor Ramos released her 5-borough listening tour. In this report, the Chancellor announced the launch of 2 new initiatives. A Family Connectors Initiative, which is an effort to connect families to vital resources. New York City Public Schools aims to train over 1,600 community volunteers to help inform people about these resources. Her second initiative is an anti-bullying and anti-vaping campaign to heighten public awareness and foster environments where every student is valued and treated with dignity and respect. I'm going to put this entire president's report in the chat so that people can go. All the links to everything are in this document. I think that's much easier than putting the links in one by one. So the next update is middle school offers are going to be released tomorrow, Wednesday, April 9th, after school hours. The New York City Public Schools is going to host a virtual information session about middle school offers, wait lists, and some next steps. One of those info sessions is April 10th, and another one will be held April 22nd. Which will provide, they will provide translation in various languages at the 2 events. Oh, and then there's a third one, April 23rd. I have a link to those events in my president's report. Our CEC elections are continuing to happen. The application period has ended, but interested applicants are still encouraged to apply to the Brooklyn Borough President for appointments. The videos of the candidate forums that took place in March can be viewed. And District 15 held 2 of these candidate forums, so be sure to watch both so you can see all of the candidates. The voting period will run from April 25th to May 13th, and you must have a NICSA account in order to vote. So please make sure to open that account. Sometimes people don't open them for a long time and they don't realize that their child is not connected to their account or their account may be deactivated. You will need a code from your parent coordinator to allow your child's data to be connected to your account. So get your NICSA account squared away so that you can vote. CEC 15 continues to have a vacancy. We have 2 vacancies, one for the parent of an English language learner and another for the parent of a District 75 student. You can apply to the DOE directly at ccecinfo@schools.nyc.gov. Don't submit applications to CEC 15. All of the applications in 9 languages and information about eligibility can be found on the DOE's website. Links in my president's report. Panel for Education Policy elections are about to happen. If you are interested in serving on the Panel for Education Policy as one of the 5 parents elected by CEC presidents, please complete the application and send it to parentapplications@schools.nyc.gov by April 15th. You must have at least one child currently attending a public, non-charter school in New York City and reside in the borough you seek to represent. The next PEP meetings, there are 2 in April. One Wednesday, April 23rd at Long Island City High School. At that meeting, the PEP will be voting on the Fair Student Funding Formula. Speaker sign up begins at 5:30 at the door and closes promptly at 6:15. There is a second April PEP meeting, April 30th, which will be in District 15 at Sunset Park High School. Now, whether you attend these meetings or not, you can send written testimony to the 24 PEP members using the link that is in my president's report. So send in your comments to the PEP. Also coming up, April 26th is the spring 2025 citywide conference for SLTs and DLTs. That is going to be from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Manhattan Center for Science and Mathematics in Manhattan. 280 Pleasant Avenue. I've never heard of Pleasant Avenue. Where is Pleasant Avenue?
It's across the street from hospital on 116th.
Oh, wow, okay, okay,
Yeah, right in Harlem.
okay,
I know where that is.
all right. So 280 Pleasant Avenue. You can register in the link in my president's report. All, parent leaders who participate in these SLT and DLTs, are encouraged to attend this day of information and learning, so that you will be able to qualify for SLT and CTLE credits. There will be charter bus transportation from each borough. There are translation interpretation services available, and some limited childcare will be made available for registered participants. Okay, and finally, in my continuing segment called Federal Government Watch, the U.S. Department of Education sent a letter giving state education agencies 10 days to certify that their schools do not engage in any practices that the administration believes illegally promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those that do not sign will not apparently receive federal funding, the official said. There is a link in my president report to a Chalkbeat article about that. However, the NYSED issued a defiant response. Deputy Commissioner for Legal Affairs, Daniel Morton Bentley, wrote in a letter to federal education officials stating, "We understand that the current administration seeks to censor anything it deems diversity, equity, and inclusion, but there are no federal or state laws prohibiting the principles of DEI." He added that the federal government has not defined what practices it believes violate civil rights protections. So kudos to the NYSED for standing up for New York City students. In March, you might also have noted that there was an executive order to eliminate the Department of Education. President Trump signed an unlawful executive order to close the department. What is next? One wonders if you follow Project 2025, the next plan may be to eliminate Title I grants. According to Connecticut Congress member Rosa DeLauro, that is what she views as the plan next. These Title I grants help 26 million students learn, and the U.S. representative released a new fact sheet detailing the number of teachers in each district that we stand to lose without Title I grants. If we follow this fact sheet, congressional districts that cover District 15 could lose 13,598 teachers, amounting to almost $900 million. Member Rosa DeLauro's letter to Secretary McMahon demanding answers to mass firings is linked in my president's report, as well as her February statement on Elon Musk and President Trump's dismantling of the Department of Education. On Dignity for All Students Act, I have put on the table here some information about the Dignity for All Students Act. Various families attended our last meeting to criticize leadership for not speaking more forcefully in support of trans and gender questioning students. I wanted to share the NYSED's 2023 legal update and best practices for creating a safe, supportive, and affirming school environment for transgender and gender expansive students. So that link is in this report as well. And now we're going to dig into this response to our resolution to demand accountability from the school construction authority. And I want to ask Katina if would you like to read the response, Katina?
I can. Yeah.
Here, I have.
Oh, I've got it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. As long as people don't mind listening to me for a minute, because it's long.
I've spoken enough.
Okay.
I can read part of it if you want to break at some
Okay, all
point.
right, thank you. All right, this is a letter dated March 26th, 2025, which was shortly after I attended an SCA board meeting. It's addressed to Superintendent Alvarez and members of Community Education Council 15. Is there a link to it in the chat so the interpreters can look at the text? Maybe it's easier?
Yeah, let me put that.
Okay, thank you.
There.
The School Construction Authority, SCA, is in receipt of a resolution adopted at the January 28th, 2025 CEC meeting. SCA staff attended this meeting to present the November amendment to our 2025-2029 capital plan. We also discussed and addressed the items on the resolution during the meeting. Okay, I won't editorialize while I'm reading.
I think you can do that.
Okay, I don't believe that they addressed the items that were included in the resolution during our meeting. The representative who was there was a representative from the Bronx. Is that correct?
I think so.
Not from Brooklyn in any case, and wasn't familiar with any of the issues that were happening at the schools that we were mentioning. She was willing to listen to everything that we put forward, but didn't have any information to address the question that we raised.
And she said she would look
Oh,
into
she
it.
was from Queens.
Queens.
Yes, she was
Thank
from
you.
Queens,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, moving back to the letter. We have been aware of many of the concerns raised in this resolution since fall 2024. In early September, in response to a request from Superintendent Alvarez, SCA provided a list of all projects in District 15 to Superintendent Alvarez to share with CEC 15 at its September meeting. On October 17th, 2024, when CEC 15 sent letters to Superintendent Alvarez and City Council Education Chair Rita Joseph outlining issues at several schools, those issues had already been addressed. I don't believe that that's the case either. SCA met with Superintendent Alvarez and district officials, as well as individual schools, to ensure that the items in the letter were all sufficiently addressed. SCA staff also met with Chair Joseph on November 4th to discuss the letter's items. Okay, I'll just read straight through so it doesn't get confusing what's in the letter and what's my voice. Various SCA staff also had regular contact with members of the CEC throughout the fall. CEC Treasurer Katina Rogers was in direct contact with staff at SCA's Office of the Inspector General on September 27th to refer concerns about the contractor at PS 15. Following an investigation on October 1st, 2024, SCA's OIG responded to say that no improper payments were made. SCA's external affairs team was also in regular communication with CEC President Antonia Ferraro Martinelli via meetings, calls, and correspondences throughout the fall. In addition to the above communications, in response to the January resolution, SCA staff met with Comptroller Brad Lander's office regarding its contents. It is important to establish that no ongoing concerns at any school mentioned in either the October 17 letter or the January 28 resolution have been identified. It is also critical that SCA clarify and correct inaccurate statements in the resolution. procurement and contractor management. As required by New York City and state public procurement laws, it is true that SCA's projects are awarded to the lowest qualified bidder. Exceptions are made in some situations. It is not true, however, that SCA does not vet contractors. In fact, prime contractors are not allowed to be awarded any SCA job until they have been vetted and pre-qualified for work. All subcontractors must also be pre-qualified. In addition, for certain complex projects that may require specialized work, SCA may only offer certain highly qualified contractors the opportunity to bid. SCA's pre-qualification requirements and processes are thorough, appropriate, and publicly available on our website. While these processes are intended to ensure that only the most qualified contractors are awarded work on SCA projects, with over 700 projects in active construction at any given time, we recognize that issues may arise. In these cases, we work closely with school officials to do as much as we can to keep the project moving, while providing updated information to the school community and while adhering to the parameters of contract and procurement statutes. SCA also regularly reviews and evaluates contractor performance. Contractors that do not meet SCA performance standards may be disqualified from bidding on future SCA projects. The assertion that SCA pays contractors in advance of work is false. General contractors are only paid when work is completed at contractually established project milestones. These payments occur for work that is completed, inspected, and meets SCA standards. The specific claim of improper payments at PS 15 is unequivocally false. While it is true that after completing a portion of the work satisfactorily, another contractor was brought in to complete the project, SCA's independent inspector general found the $11 million payment to the original general contractor was properly made. No misuse of public funds occurred. This was communicated to CEC Treasurer Rogers on October 1st, 2024 by SCA's OIG. Am I taking that section?
Yeah, do you
Thank
want to
you.
editorialize for a minute on that, or should we just go straight through?
collect all of the problems and then just go over at the end?
At
Okay.
the end, sure.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Communication. Given the volume of construction across the city, it is highly likely that SCA has dozens of projects open across District 15 at any given time. However, as work progresses every day and new projects begin, the number is constantly changing. SCA has protocols to make sure that school leadership understands what is happening at each project site. To handle local engagement, SCA assigns a community relations manager to every school district. In District 15, the community relations manager is Tamar Smith, who CEC members have worked with for many years. The director of external affairs responsible for managing all of the community relations staff is Yvette Knight. Those assignments and contact information are publicly available on our website, and any member of the public or school community can contact their local community relations manager or the director with questions about any project at any time. All SCA staff, including managers and supervisors, received regular training on many topics. In addition, SCA publishes a quarterly status report of projects in process on our website. Our most recent report was published on December 31st, 2024. SCA has developed an extensive notification and communication protocol with school and community officials on all projects. Before a project starts, SCA engages with principals on its scope. Because we do not work during school hours for the safety of students and staff, our work is in existing school buildings is done between 4 p.m. and midnight, subject to after-hours permits. We recognize that sometimes this will impact after-school programming. In addition, some projects may require building closure during summer months to facilitate construction activities. When a general contractor is identified, the SCA holds a meeting to discuss the scope, project schedule, and a review of SCA's safety protocols. School officials, including the principals, local UFT officials, parent coordinator, and PTA or other parent representatives are invited to attend that meeting. Before the project officially starts, SCA distributes a construction notice to the principals, neighbors, the CEC, the local community board, and local elected officials. This notice details the scope and timeframe of the work and provides contact information for the local community relations manager. The SCA meets the principals monthly to provide project and schedule updates and to address any issues from the school. School officials are strongly encouraged to include a PTA or parent representative at these meetings so they may easily disseminate information to parents. SCA also provides school officials with a 2-week look ahead construction schedule. The resolution hints at several project-specific challenges, but does not provide the schools. Presumably, these are the projects from the October 17th letter, all of which were addressed. If CEC members are aware of any schools experiencing construction challenges, please contact us directly and encourage school officials to do so as well. We will do our best to rectify any issues as quickly as possible. We understand that construction projects are inherently disruptive to school communities, and we do our best to limit those disruptions to the best of our abilities. Unforeseen circumstances sometimes happen during construction, especially in buildings that are as old as the typical New York City public school building. We attempt to address concerns immediately when they are brought to our attention. In some cases, SCA must produce design documents or seek new approvals to respond to building conditions, and that takes time. We work closely with school officials to make sure they understand the source of any delays and to share timelines if they are available. We recognize and agree that projects delays affect students and the larger community, while unforeseen building conditions account for most schedule changes. Project delays can happen for a variety of reasons. Most notably, since the onset of the COVID pandemic, global supply chain issues for construction materials have been rampant and persistent. In recent weeks, the confusion regarding the federal administration's tariff policy has created a great deal of uncertainty, exacerbating the situation. Finally, SCA acknowledges that the third seat on our Board of Trustees has been vacant for some time. Since the vacancy occurred, SCA has been closely coordinating with City Hall to ensure proper selection and vetting of a prospective third trustee. The search to identify a highly qualified candidate willing to fulfill this voluntary, unpaid role has been extensive. It is crucial to note that SCA's Board of Trustees has had a quorum to conduct business at all meetings since the vacancy occurred, and day-to-day operations remain uninterrupted. I hope this letter has responded to the concerns and assertions raised in the January 28th resolution. As always, SCA staff remain more than willing to discuss and address your questions or concerns on these or any other issues. Feel free to contact me directly at 718-472-8005 or abender@nycsca.org at any time. Sincerely, Andrea Bender, Vice President, External Affairs, New York City Construction Authority.
Thank you, Jonathan. So, Tina, you worked, this was predominantly your project. So I know there are a lot of things in this letter that you'd like to rebut. And I also know we have our expert on the line.
And I think Principal Kavanaugh might be on.
And
as well.
Principal Kavanaugh might be on too. I don't see her, but I see
I'm doing sure.
I don't see her.
All right, okay.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd like to turn it back to you to just share your thoughts.
Sure, okay, yeah, I'll share a few thoughts and then I'd love to hear from Abdel, from Dr. Abdel Ghaffar, Dr. Abdel Ghaffar, and if Principal Kavanaugh joins, then I'd love to hear her perspective as well. So I feel, for one thing, that there is a certain skirting of some of the issues that we raised in our resolution and in our previous letter and our communications with them, in ways that they are addressing the letter of what we might be saying without addressing the underlying issues. One of the ways that this came across most strongly to me is when they say that all of the issues at the schools that we mentioned have been rectified. I think that it's possible that by the time our resolution passed, that all of those issues were known and in the process of being addressed, but they had not been completely satisfied at that time. And it still doesn't get at the underlying issue that those issues should not have been happening in the first place, and it shouldn't be a fight to fix them. I mean, I'm thinking of PS10, which is one of, it's an older issue. It's the school where my kids go, and it's something that we brought up in the resolution, I think, or at least in the letter that I read at the legislative breakfast. But there was a fire in kindergarten classrooms, and then there was a fight with the SEA to get that rectified. To say that that problem has been addressed is one thing, but it still doesn't acknowledge the broader accountability of why things get to the point that principals and parents and school leadership have to press so hard to get their voices heard. So I don't believe that the issues we raised at the meeting were addressed in the meeting. We've mentioned that already. They talk about how they vet contractors. The question that we had actually raised was about how they train supervisors, which was not addressed in the letter. They may have spoken with Chair Joseph and with Superintendent Alvarez, but that wasn't communicated to us. They mention in particular the milestone-based payments, the PS15. And they say that those payments are only made once work has been inspected and deemed acceptable. But if that's the case, then I don't understand why that contractor had to be blacklisted and replaced and the work redone. If that work was inspected and it was fine and they were paid for it, then how do they explain the tension between saying that the work was acceptable and then having to fire the contractor? So I guess the last thing is a question of communication. All of these things might be true, but what we're hearing from principals doesn't align. The communication that they're describing that they have, the level of transparency that they're describing, doesn't line up with any principal that I've spoken to at the schools where I'm a liaison. It doesn't align with what I see at the school where my kids attend. I think that, again, there might be materials that they are making available on their website, so that might be factually accurate, but just having something present on the website doesn't mean that it's accessible in a meaningful way. In the same way that their SCA board meetings are technically open to the public, but not welcoming to the public, I think that communicating in a way that is legible and meaningful to the school community is different than something that is compliance oriented and checks a box. So I appreciate that they took the time to respond and to go through this point by point. I think that the broader issues remain a question. And yeah, I guess that's all from me.
Should we invite Dr. Ahmed?
You can say you can say Abdul, Ahmed Abdul. Could be easy. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thanks for
Welcome
being
to our
here.
meeting, and thank you so much.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome. Thank you. Thank you for this invitation and thank you for this opportunity. Okay, first of all, I'm very happy that they responded, because like what usually they are not responding. Okay, I can share my screen. I have a report from the Bronx. 1 second. No, I don't have the ability to share my screen. Okay. I can?
Yeah, now you can, you should be able to.
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, can you see this report?
No,
we just see a blue screen, Windows screen.
1 second. This is like this.
There we go.
Now you can see it?
Yes.
Yeah, look at this report. It was a very great report from Bronx Borough President, okay? And they were addressing everything, okay? And it was very long, This, I use it in my dissertation about the School Construction Authority. And they said something here, recommendation number 8, the SCA must increase transparency and provide information to all stakeholders, including elected officials and so, okay, they didn't respond to this. Okay, so I'm very happy that they responded to you. Okay, I have some solid points about their. I will stop sharing my screen. Okay, first of all, about the letter, they didn't answer the concern raised by the Community Education Council 15. As Dr. Katina said. Instead of taking the issue seriously, the letter tried to make it seem like everything is fine, but it lacked honesty. It didn't suggest any changes and didn't build trust even. It actually made people more worried and showed why we need outside our side, and real change as a SCA. I'm saying that about the defensive tones they use in this letter. Right from the start, the letter tries to deny there are any problems. It says the issue we're already taken care of, as according to the statements that use, and that no problem remain. But people in the schools and community are still seeing real issues. Uh, I'm an adjunct professor and University of the People, but I'm a project manager with 2 schools with the School Construction Authority, from the general contractor side. So I know what is the issue. So this kind of attitude doesn't help. It makes the SCA look like it's ignoring the truth. Okay. And point number 2, no promises for change. The letter doesn't offer any new plan to fix things. Be more open or improve how projects are handled. It just says they responded already, as if it's that enough. It feels like they are like everything. It's good. And actually, I was waiting for real information, even though the letter says project were discussed. It doesn't give dates, numbers, or updates that makes it hard to know what actually going on. And they focused on meetings, not results. The letter lists meetings and phone calls, but doesn't explain what happened, what those meetings accomplished. Just saying we talked about it isn't the same as resolving the problem. And they said about the internal investigation, when there was a complaint about a contractor, like what happened in PS 15, the SCA looked into themselves and said nothing was wrong, but they didn't share details. It's hard to trust the investigation like self-investigation, and denying and ongoing issues. Saying that there are no problems is too general. People in schools still see real issues. Pretending everything is okay doesn't fix anything. So, and they said they met with the city financial the controller, but didn't say what was discussed or what came from it. That makes it seem like they are just name dropping. So about claim number 1, all issues are resolved. The reality is it's not true. I know that there were like 52 open projects in some district. I don't want to mention. No timeline or clear updates. These problems are ongoing, not fixed. They are not showing anything in the SCA website. You can go to the SCA website and they said we have everything. No, they don't have anything. And we communicated well with the community. They said that the reality they only responded after the community pushed hard. The case of PS 145, I have another school, shows how dangerous poor communication can be. Somebody, like a lot of people got hurt in this situation. It's published in 2024 and I have the archive. Project timeline are available and managed. This is totally not true. Timelines are rarely shared with the public. There is no clear or regular updates. Even there are another website, .org. This is any agency has to publish its timeline and this kind of stuff. But I explained this before to Dr. Katina. I told her like what they are updating the time extension time by time. So if you look at the baseline schedule, you will see that nothing happened. Like the delay, you will not see any delay. Okay, so they are updating the time extension verbally, time extension to the real baseline in this website. They said school leaders are involved. Principals don't have a real control over what happened. They usually nobody is sharing anything with the principal until you have something like color painting, something like that. Any other, maybe they will say, we will do our best to finish this project in 1 year, and they spend like 3-4 years, and the principal cannot do anything. They are often left out, which causes delays and safety risks. Contractors are properly chosen. Choosing the cheapest contractors has led to serious problems with all the agencies. We need like to pick contractors based on quality, not just the cost, and delays don't really hurt students. Don't really, no, she said like they didn't hurt the students. Delay have forced students into unsafe, uncrowded, like crowded classrooms, hurting their learning and well-being, and safety and quality. The SCA is the best with the safety and quality, but the problem is when you have a delay, this delay, it comes from the work is not done. So you have some issues, you didn't solve these issues, okay, and the delay make it worse, okay. So the last thing is the communication, like poor and working, no communication about it. Nobody knows, So that's why I'm sharing only 4 points. You need it as a community, sharing project timelines and budget, with the public regularly. This is something it has to be. Creating teams that work directly with the school and families. There is no connection between the community, direct connection between the community and the SCA. Changing how contractors are picked. That working with the SCA is a piece of cake. Let me tell you something. One union labor that the GC or the general contractor is using is getting $1,000 every day. I'm a general contractor, I'm paying them every day. So it's a surprise, That's why the SCA is consuming a lot of money because they are very strict to use union labors, okay? So I have another report in front of me from New York Post. If I can share it, this is the last thing, 1 second. Say one seat for one student, it costing $120,000 in New York. And this is crazy, 1 second, let me share this to you. Can you see it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look. Look.
Mm.
You know this? In my country, in Egypt, I can build a new school. Not one.
Yeah.
So, and this like high credibility. This is like investigative report. It's not like opinion report. So it is what it is. But school construction authority is like that, But I'm happy they responded, Yeah. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for your assistance with this and for your perspective. There's still a lot of meat on the bones of this issue, and it's not going to go away. Obviously the squeaky wheel gets the grease when it comes to dealing with the SCA because you had to physically go to
Yeah.
their board meeting in order to get this response. Because I do not think we would have gotten this letter had you not physically gone there.
I'm sure we wouldn't have. And Julie is on now.
Oh, Julie is on now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Hi, Julie.
Hey guys, squeaky wheel here. All right, I've had a really long day, so hopefully I can be somewhat coherent. So a couple of things. The first thing I wanted to say is principals are involved to the extent that they force the tools to be used the way that they're supposed to be, right? So what often happens is, principals are completely overwhelmed. There's a million and one things. We're not contractors. Like, we shouldn't be oversight of the construction of our buildings. But so in that sense, the gentleman who just shared, he's correct to say that like principals aren't involved, but it's not because the structures aren't in place. It's because they don't avail themselves. And of course, why would SCA push any of those things? Because that's just going to be additional oversight for them and potential complications, right? I am a very stubborn human being and take my role as steward of, this building and space in a very under-resourced community very seriously. So I avail myself of all of those tools, which is why, and all of the meetings and all of the things, I know all of the rules and I make them follow them, which is why our project is now being investigated by the AG. Thank you, CEC. Why we've had the outcomes that we've had. So I just want to say, I'm a big fan, I was an activist for a long time before I was a teacher, and I'm a big fan of using the boss's tools, just what we call it in the streets. And, so I use the SEA's own requirements for working with the principal, to leverage the results and the respect for my community that should happen. Now, having said that, with all of that, very over involvement, and probably going too far at times, it was still a complete and total disaster. To the point about the milestones piece and the payouts. So first of all, there's no way that they finished an internal review that could have in any way determined that that $11 million was not fraudulently spent, because they are still to this day uncovering things that were done wrong, that have to be redone, uncovering inspections that were never done, all of it. So it's impossible that they could have completed a review before you receive that letter saying, and that the review found this. It is absolute corruption at its finest. It would literally, I guess you could say the person who allegedly did the review, whatever, I don't know, imagine something in their mind, but there's no way you can say you did a review in good faith when literally we're still uncovering things on a regular basis. Specifically in terms of the milestone part of the letter. So trying to think of how to coherently say this because it's a lot and it's been a long day. I think there's several problems. So one thing that I've learned, and I've become very collegial with the person who runs our project now. So that is the McLeod Group. They are contracted with the SCA basically as like the cleanup company when jobs go awry. I don't know everybody in the McLeod Group, but the people that I'm dealing with are wonderful. The way that works is McLeod Group gets a set budget for the year, and they never know how many cleanups they're going to have to do. And every cleanup that they have to do comes out of their budget. So that in and of itself is, as a taxpayer and a mother and a principal, like, okay, so the incentives are completely set up wrong there. Now, luckily, you know, the guys that I'm working with, they're great, but you can still see how those incentives being set up the wrong way reward the wrong kinds of behaviors, does not reward efficiency, for example, unless of course they've had a bunch of cleanups in a year, then they want to be really efficient, right? So I've become very collegial with the guy who's running our job now. And I've learned a lot from him. Like he's, you know, been pretty frank about stuff because needless to say, he had to work pretty hard to like rebuild my trust in a relationship after everything that we went through. One of the things that I've learned from him is one of the problems is the people that the SCA has doing the project manager role, they're really not qualified for that role. And that is definitely what was part of that play in our situation. Now, I am still not convinced that there was not also or greasing palms that was happening. You know, that there was different levels of corruption that was happening because the behavior really suggests that. Like when you're a principal, you're also kind of a detective and your antennas go up, you know things. And there was some really strange things in the way things that played out that really made me feel like it wasn't just that the project manager was incompetent, but that he was on the take. I have no evidence of that, but just, you know, from what I've learned, the people in the project manager positions really are not qualified to be in those positions. And so things become a mess. The milestones part. So I'm getting to that with this background information. So the way that it works, essentially, what I've learned through this process is, you know, the whole job is this amount of money. And then all along the way, the contractors, the company, whatever, and remember also, there's all other layers of corruption to this, right? Because it's not just one contractor. They have subcontractors and they have subcontractors of contractors. And this is how they play the shell game and no, it's not me and da-da-da. And it's ridiculous and how they skim money off the top and all of it. But so for example, what was supposed to happen with our roof is that was a line item and you reach this certain spot in this line item, the inspection happens, and then they would get paid for completing that line item, right? So the roof was a line item. They said it was done. They said it was inspected. I don't know how much they got paid for it, but I'm assuming all of it. I don't know. Roof is not done. Roof is not okay. Roof did not pass inspection. Roof has to be completely redone, which has now caused all kinds of additional layers of problems because so every like contractor, like the big ones, they have relationships, they have a partnership with the manufacturers, right? So there's all different roofers, there's all different siding people, there's all different brick people. Those manufacturers train and have a contract and a relationship with contractors that covers the warranty and the work. So when you have another contractor come in who now has to deal with this roof situation as a specific example, we're in this whole long pause because the new contractors can't even touch the roof because then the warranty would be voided because the warranty is only valid by people who have this partnership with the manufacturer and are trained by them. This goes for the windows, this goes for everything. So all these things that they said were milestones that they were getting paid for all along, we're finding out now are no good. The roof, the windows, the masonry wasn't in fact done, a bunch of things. And in my last 2-week look ahead meeting, when I said, I don't understand how did they do this? Because they said these things were inspected and passed inspection. And what I was told is, point blank, they lied. They didn't inspect anything. So I don't know what the oversight is with the the project manager. Like, is it that SCA just whole hog trusts the project manager to, you know, sign off on all of these things, which again is a horrible structure and incentive because that is a quick hop, skip, and a jump to greasing palms because you know, anybody without character, why you could totally get away with it if that's the setup, which is part of what I think happened here. But reports of inspections that did not happen were said that they did happen. So, and then, you know, the incentives are wrong on the milestone things too, because what happened 2 summers ago, you know, I had been fighting at that point for at least 6 months to get this company fired. So they knew, you know, what was coming down the pike, and my evidence was gathered and it was getting worse and worse. It was the summertime. So the day after school let out, I walked in that morning and my entire school was ripped apart. I still had adults here that day. There were literally circular saws in the hallway. So what they started doing illegally is just essentially opening up all of these lines in the things that they hadn't yet started yet, because they knew at this point this was going to go to litigation. And the way that, from my understanding, what I've learned through this process is the way SCA deals with litigation with these contractors is just to come up with a compromise and put it to bed. Why? 2 reasons. One, because it's not good for SCA to have the public's attention drawn to, you know, losing money value and not having jobs go well, right? So again, wrong incentives. But also, it's, you know, more money and it's a lot of work for the SCA. And quite frankly, I don't think they have the capacity to do what needs to be done to really litigate these cases and prove in court. And what would be exposed is their own incompetence of oversight, right? So why would they do that? And then from what I understand, these construction companies are also very crafty and clever. So their first thing to do when they smelled what was coming down the pike was to try to make allegations behind false doors that I was just discriminating against them, that I didn't like them because of, I guess, their ethnicity or whatever, which is obviously ridiculous. Sorry, I lost my original point with that.
Project managers oversight?
Yes, hold on, I'll get back there. Between a 12-hour day and perimenopause, this is where we're at.
Unqualified contractor.
Hold on, it's coming. I was saying the milestones thing. I was saying the litigation thing. Oh, right. So what they did that 2 summers ago, this was about having the milestones and all the different lines, right? So my understanding is once you open up a line, that's initiating the milestone, right? So what they did that summer is they just ripped apart everything. So all of those lines were open, right? Look, we worked on the doors. Look, we worked on the roof. Look, we worked on the masonry. Look, we worked on the windows. Look, we did doorknobs. We did that. Now, meanwhile, everything was in shambles. Everything was wrong. It was sheer chaos. I came in one day and the entire wall of my MDMF room, which is like the lifeline of the whole entire building, literally the entire wall was gone and a piece of plastic was just flapping in the breeze. Like that is what we're dealing with here. So, the incentives are wrong again, because without proper project management, they were just left to open up all of those lines and then say, hey, pay me because we're going to take you to court and you're going to lose. And we know that we can call your bluff and you're going to settle anyway because you just want to make this go away. And all of this was happening. I had the project manager here and the guy underneath of him, whose name is Raj, and like literally standing in the MDF room with the plastic flapping, which is why I feel there was greasy palm business going on. Again, it's just a feeling. I don't have any facts, but like there's not qualified, and then there's you have eyeballs, you know, and those are the kind of behaviors that didn't line up to me. So I wanted to also say the 2-week look aheads are, they are supposed to be provided to principals every 2 weeks. They often are not, and they are often inaccurate. Even with the good company that we're working with now, oftentimes they're inaccurate. So that is something that really has to be cleaned up. Particularly because one of the issues that we've had throughout this is theft. You know, stealing like iPad plugs and things like that in the classrooms at night. And then there's no accountability or reimbursement for that. So I at least need to know for sure what spaces are you going to be in each night so I can try to have some kind of accountability. Oftentimes that's wrong. And then the Tamir thing, you know, Tamir is a very nice lady, but what happens with Tamir is, you know, she'll send like, if people in the community are upset, she'll send a letter like, you know, thank you so much for your patience. We know you want to have a beautiful school. Like there's no there. Like it's all very trying to just make everything be okay and pretending like everything underneath of that surface is like not rotten to the core. She knew what was going on here. She knew my project manager's deal, and she was not brave, I guess I will say. It was all on me to be the bad guy. So, you know, Tamir is a very nice lady, but in terms of how they're describing her role, I would disagree.
Thank you, Julie, for your candor, and that complete report on what went on. Yeah, a New York City DOE principal is just a
Thankless job.
Thankless job, yeah. And I don't think they do PDs on dealing with SEA construction when you're becoming a principal.
I could sure do one now.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Julie.
guys. I'm gonna jump off and try to get home to my kids. Thank you all for all you do and all of your work and everything. We appreciate you at the school level very much. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night, Julie.
Right.
So, you know, this is gonna be an ongoing battle.
Mhm.
We have a lot more information than we did a year ago.
Can we use this letter and the inaccuracies of this letter to share with the AG in their investigation to just show the blatant lies?
We could share this video.
Okay,
Mhm.
so just more evidence.
Yeah.
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 Sure.
I don't know if you have context in terms of that investigation or not, but.
I mean, I have the people that I talk to for sure.
Okay.
So, yeah, could reach back out to
Yeah,
them.
we can reach out to them.
Mhm.
All right.
I still think if one thing could come of this would be getting someone from Lander's office on the board of
That's
trustees.
Why I
Yeah.
suggested that the
Yeah.
comptroller should be.
Exactly.
a
I
member.
mean, I think that's like the most actionable, doable thing.
And logical.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
they could do it tomorrow.
yes, the comptroller should be a board member of the SCA. All right, we're gonna end on that note, this conversation, and move on to our presentation from the Office of Language Access. We have Robert Williams. Where would you like to sit? Anywhere you want.
You want me to pick it or you? Yeah. He wants to move.
Either way, okay, wherever, you know.
Meet you.
Welcome, Mr. Williams.
Good evening, everyone. How you doing? My name is Robert Williams. I am the External Outreach Specialist at the Office of Language Access. This presentation that I'm going to present is going to guide you on how to navigate whether or not you want to have any documents translated or have an interpreter speak at any one of your parent events. On the agenda, we're going to talk about the New York City Public Schools background, our commitment to New York City Public Schools families, the schools.nyc.gov hello webpage, raising awareness in our communities, and if there are any questions. So there are over 1 million students in over 1,600 plus schools that speak over 180 languages. Approximately 40% of New York City Public Schools households speak a language other than English at home. New York City Public Schools' top 10 covered languages besides English are Arabic, Bangla, Cantonese, French, Haitian Creole, Korean, Mandarin, Russian, Spanish, and Urdu. Written translations are also available in both traditional and simplified Chinese. And the Office of Language Access is dedicated to supporting both New York City Public Schools staff and families by providing the resources necessary for effective communication in languages other than English. So here's a little brief snapshot of the languages in District 15. Out of 50 languages, but there's a total of 50 languages in this district. And besides the top 10 covered languages, you also have a good population of Japanese families. So we want to keep in mind of those families when we're translating documents or have interpreters at the parent meetings. There are over 5,000 parents who prefer to be spoken in their language, and over 5,000 parents who prefer written communication in their language. At our office, we have 3 major teams. Our translation team is our largest department, and they provide written translation services in the 10 non-English languages, and works in close collaboration with our contracted vendor to extend services for languages beyond the capacity of our internal resources. Our interpretation team works with our contracted interpretation vendors to ensure schools receive services for in-person, virtual, and over the phone for parent engagement. Our outreach and data integration team focuses on promoting equitable language access services to schools and empowering New York City Public Schools parents to understand and advocate for their language access rights. We also collaborate with advocates to identify needs and address language barriers in our ever-changing communities. We engage parent leaders to enhance the message of language access to our communities. We pursue innovative ways to engage with and receive feedback from families, such as online portals, emails, robocalls, texts, direct mailers. We leverage technology to continuously enhance the interpretation experience for families, such as virtual meetings. We ensure translation quality, such as professional translation tools. And we keep a pulse of citywide parent language data and translation interpretation service outputs. The New York City Public Schools free language services include interpretation for all types of meetings and interactions with New York City Public Schools staff, translation of general documents into the New York City Public Schools top covered languages, and some examples of those documents include parent newsletter, event flyers, translation of individualized documents into a parent's preferred language upon request, and some example of those documents will include an IEP, which is a individualized educational program, Section 504 plan, which is a medical accommodations. Let's say if you feel your child has test anxiety, you would go to the school, ask the school to give you the 504 document. You would take that to your primary doctor. If your doctor deems that your child does have anxiety, they will fill it out, you bring that back to the school, and now your child can receive extra time on their test. We also translate foreign transcripts in any language, not just our top covered languages. So when you go to the schools.nyc.gov website, you're gonna notice at the top right corner, there's a Google drop down. You just click on that, select which language that you prefer, and then the entire website will translate into that language. But please note, automated translations are not intended to replace human translators and are provided as a service to users of the website. Some content such as images, videos, animations, etc., may not be translated due to the limitations of the translation software. So when you first go onto the schools.nyc.gov hello webpage, the first thing you're gonna see is a little short video. It just explains where you can go to have your documents translated, or if you need an interpreter. You're gonna notice at the top right corner, there's also a Google drop down. This video is also available in our covered languages as well. Right underneath that video, the first tab is gonna read helpful resources. You may print and cut out an ISP card in 10 languages to request language assistance services when communicating with the New York City Public School staff. Language access for New York City Public Schools families brochure advises families of the availability of language assistance services. You may also request one at your school. Also, in this tab, you will find health forms and notices, special education, early childhood communications, and also enrollment forms. But let's say you wanted to click on the language access for New York City Public Schools family brochure. This is how the brochure looks. You'll see at the bottom, there are little small cutouts. You'll cut out whichever language that you prefer. Bring that to the school, and the school must provide communication in that language. Let's say the language that you speak is not listed here. We also have a blank I speak portion. Just write what your language is, cut it out, bring that to the school, and the school still must provide communication in that language. The very next tab will read Request Language Services. Families may complete the translation and interpretation service request form to request language services. The New York City Public Schools Office of Language Access will forward your request to the appropriate school, office, or committee on special education. This form is also available in our covered languages. Please note, language assistance services may vary depending on the type of school the student attends. Families can also call 311 to make a request for language assistance services. Over the phone interpretation is available in over 200 languages. Let's say you want to click on the translation and interpretation service request form. On the left is how the form will look. That's a little snapshot. But before you fill out this form, please go to your school for support first. They are your direct support for any language services. Let's say for some reason that the school has a new staff member there and they're not aware of the services, then you can come here to fill out the form. The process will be, once you fill out this form, I will receive a notification in my email. I would then forward that to the principal, the parent coordinator, and whoever is the language access coordinator is of that school. Each school should have a language access coordinator that we train. And that training is about a 2.5, 3 hour training. So they receive all the resources, and then they're supposed to turnkey that information to the school. Again, this form is available in the top in our covered languages, and we also provided a QR code for those who like to take out their phone and scan it. The very next tab underneath that will read Connect with OLA. If you or someone you know needs help receiving information or communicating with a school staff member in a language other than English, please tell your school's principal or parent coordinator or call 311, or you can visit the Contact OLA form. Let's say you want click on the contact order form. On the left is a snapshot on how the form would look, and it's the same process. I would forward this to the principal, parent coordinator, and whoever is the language access coordinator of that school. And I typically ask for a response from the school within 5 to 7 business days. Because anything that comes in with a concern from a parent, if they have not received any interpretation, or if they requested a document and they did not receive it from the school, we consider that as a complaint. So the school will have 5 to 7 business days to respond. Now, the parent can actually fill this out with their information or anonymously. It's up to the parent. The very next tab underneath that will read, share your experience with New York City Public Schools Language Assistance Services. You may also provide feedback on the New York City Public Schools Language Services by completing our translation and interpretation feedback survey, or you can do so by calling 311. Let's say you want to fill out the feedback survey. Same process. We don't want to just hear what schools are not provided for you. We want to hear some of the good things as well. So maybe we can ask that school to model for other schools who are struggling to support their parents. It's the same exact process. I forward it to the principal, parent coordinator, and whoever the language access coordinator is of that school. Now, the language access coordinator can be teacher, the parent coordinator, guidance counselor. It's whoever the principal designates. We prefer parent coordinator because they deal directly with it, but it's whoever the principal designates. And the very next tab will read sign language interpretation services. They would like for you to contact your school's parent coordinator or their office at oslis@schools.nyc.gov. This office is separate from our office. It's a totally different office. The last tab will read, are you having difficulties obtaining language assistance services? If so, you can click on the get help here or click on file a complaint. If you click on file a complaint here, this doesn't come to our office, this comes to the district. So this is the actual complaint. So now we're going to talk about raising awareness in our communities. We have done advertisement in schools, grocery stores, laundromats, nail, hair, and barber salons, pharmacies. And what's not on here is we have done advertisement in the MTA train stations and on the MTA buses. We have conducted direct parent outreach through robocalls, emails, text messages, and postcards like the one you will see on the right. If you have not received one or any of these of our outreach, please go to your school and make sure that your information is updated. Well, we tend to change addresses or phone numbers. We pull from the same system that schools enter your information in, so please make sure all your information is updated so that you can receive these outreach. And with that being said, are there any questions?
So is there anybody joining us on Zoom who has any questions? Anybody on the Mandarin line? Anybody on the Bangla line?
No question from the Bangla line.
Any questions from the Spanish line?
There are no questions from the Spanish line.
Any questions or comments from people here in person?
Just a question, it's a very general question. Does the funding for all that comes directly from the city?
The funding that is being sent to the schools for, parent engagements, I'm talking about the translation interpretation funds.
Yeah, I'm talking about like the work all that does. Is that,
Well, we work for the DOE.
Okay.
So, yes, we get paid by the city.
Any other questions? Tonya?
So I just wanna clarify your question so I can understand it more. I'm not sure exactly where OLA's funding lives, but the whole pot of money that the DOE gets is city, state, and federal. And I'm not sure if OLA gets more of one than the other, or.
It doesn't reflect my paycheck. No.
thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I know there are some Title III funds, which would be federal.
Right.
That is, some of that is like, parent engagement money for, students who are,
Like the L
language
students,
learners,
yes.
L students. So that would be some federal funds, but I'm sure it's like a big mix of.
It's a mixture. So there's a Title III on top of the translation interpretation funds that each school, well, most schools, I'm not sure, every school receives. It depends on the student population.
Yeah, right. I do have a question for you though.
Yes.
So if a parent comes in with a card that is a language that is not one of those 11 languages, what do they do?
So I'm gonna go back to when I said we train language access coordinators of each school, the resources, which, let's say that happened, right? And I'm the secretary, and the parent came in with one of those cards. The first thing that I would do is call the over the phone interpretation line, because there are over 200 languages that you can, that they have, and let them know which language I need, and then they will connect me with the interpreter.
But then in terms of translation services for that family and other interpretation, it's trickier because there aren't dedicated people to be on those 11 languages.
So the 10 languages are the most common
Yeah,
within
okay.
the school system,
Okay.
but of course, there are more languages,
Yeah.
excuse me, spoken. So for like PTA meetings or CEC meetings.
Yeah.
There should be, like you guys have online, the interpreter. The process is, a little lengthy, yes. But that's because we don't have in-house interpreters at our office. We outsource with the vendor, and their processes, they require 10 business days in advance. At our office, we have translators who translate documents.
Okay.
And that's why that process is a little longer when schools send it in, because our office translate documents for the entire city. And there's only about 40-something translators there. That's just
Oh, it's his laptop. Okay.
yeah, that was my laptop.
I had one other question.
Yes.
So I know we had an issue a year and a half ago on the CEC where we had a member who spoke Mandarin,
Mhm.
and we weren't allowed to have both an in-person interpreter and an interpreter online, which really made it so this member was not able to be present.
Right.
Because then community members wouldn't have an interpreter. And I'm wondering if this, as we're now moving towards new elections and a new cycle, if this issue has been resolved, because I feel like it's a big equity issue. Because for a member to sit on the council and be actively involved, they need to be able to have access to interpretation and translation, but our community members also need
Yes.
the interpretation.
So I've been to, I've heard that from a few other CEC councils as well. And I was actually present at one when there was an interpreter in the room and online. That the CEC will have to work that out with, our interpretation team, but it's possible, because I was at an event where that did take place.
Okay.
So it is possible.
It was not possible
It was
here.
not,
Okay.
but I want to assume that it became more problematic for CEC members, because at first it was maybe just one CEC council member, but then multiple council members started complaining.
We're
in
always
different
on the,
districts, so.
we're always on the ground floor.
Yeah.
So and I believe they're trying to come, and by September, we're gonna have new contracted vendors for interpretation. So, and I think that's because there was a lot of complaints with a lot of that going on, so we're trying to draw in, things are evolving every day. And the only way that we can support and help the community, is to listen to the concerns and try to see how we can rectify it. And there were a lot of complaints with the vendor we have now, so we're moving towards it.
Thank you. Tina?
No, just thank you for the presentation. The fact that we're able to have translation and interpretation in so many languages is something I feel really proud of about the district. I'm grateful to the interpreters who join us every week for these meetings. I'm glad to know that families can tune in and be able to participate fully in the meetings. And I didn't know very much about the office that was behind it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mohammed?
Just wanted to say, this feels like such a New York moment, in terms of the whole, melting pot and just the, access to a plethora of different cultures and languages, to give them access to what we're doing here. I think it's, makes me feel proud to be a New Yorker. Just excellent work. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Very nice
Thank you.
to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Mr. Williams. So we have a couple resolutions on the agenda. We cannot vote on them. I just want to make a note about the first resolution. I was gonna propose to strike it from the agenda because Donalda made a lot of comments in it, and I agree with a lot of her comments. Basically, the resolution sought to solve our air conditioning problems in communal spaces by redefining instructional space. And Donalda rightly brought up the sort of that might create some unintended consequences, where now if every sort of communal space is considered instructional space, does that mean it's just as valid to have classes in the cafeteria? And is that really supporting students at the end of the day when we're just trying to get air conditioning? So I think she raises a lot of points, and so I was gonna propose that we just table that. I'm not sure I want to move forward with that resolution, but can't vote on it anyway, so you guys can mull that over for yourselves. The second resolution, I think is a pretty good one. These were provided both by Camille Casaretti, PET member Camille Casaretti, and former president of this council. The PCEL resolution seeks to expand access to sports for all of our students. Not every sport is offered in every high school. And Donalda made a comment in there and I hope she, adds it to the resolution when we get a chance to, read it out loud and go through it. Otherwise, we'll have to table that one as well. And I just want to quickly pass it to Katina for a treasurer's report. If you wouldn't mind.
I asked a
Yes.
question related, going back in terms of language access. I think Katina and I were maybe talking about this at the last meeting.
Sure.
Is there a way for us to know the number of community members who join the translation lines? Because we always ask if they have questions and
Yeah.
we don't actually know if there's anybody on the line.
Yeah.
I mean, I only say that because maybe we need to be doing more outreach. So that community members who speak these languages know about the meetings and what's going on. So I just wanted to, having Robert here made me think of just sort of how we can get the word out more and sort of see who is joining on these lines and who, and if not, what we can do to get the word
Do
out.
we get any sort of report from interpretation as to how many people signed up for?
No, we don't. They ask me because I can see on the Teams line if anybody logged in.
Okay,
Oh, so you can always see it in real time.
yeah, okay. And are people joining? I mean, and no.
Like, not often, no.
Yeah.
So with that, one of my other councils, what they do is, on their flyer, they state that if nobody joins after a certain time, they can release their interpreters. So that's something that you can do. You would just have to have somebody monitoring the team lines to make sure that somebody is actually present, because we don't want to excuse them and then somebody.
Right.
Right.
Would I'm sorry to the interpreters if this is awkward to be talking about your work and you're having to interpret it, but would the interpreters still be paid for their time that
Yes.
they've held
Yeah.
aside if they're released? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I was thinking the same thing. I
Yeah.
want to make sure they're compensated.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to your point, yes, we should maybe consider ways we can encourage more people to attend our
Thanks,
meetings. Who speak another language, and I'm totally open to any suggestions about how to do that. We do, when we put out our notice to the public, there is a flyer in there about language access that is translated into the 3 different languages that we provide interpretation in. But yeah, I'm open to suggestions on that front.
I don't have anything off the top of my
Yeah.
head. It was more something that we should collectively brainstorm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where the school liaisons really need to, if you are a liaison to a school with a population that speaks X
One of these
language,
Yeah.
like, please reach out to make sure they're getting our flyers, that they're signed up to be on our mailing list. Go to the PTA and share our agendas with them, and we can get things translated. It just takes 10 days. I'm loath to use Google to do it because I don't know what it's gonna spit out. I could kind of figure out Spanish, but the rest I'm worthless in.
Yeah.
But yes, open, always, it's a perennial problem.
Yeah.
Open to any and all.
Maybe that's something the new
The
council
new
takes up,
council.
over the summer
Yeah.
Yes.
No. We'll fix it.
Have we had anybody on any of the lines? Like, do you remember people joining besides the
Yeah,
interpreter? Okay,
yes, there have been people joining, but most times not.
most times not, okay.
And sometimes I've noticed when we're having a meeting in a school that has a community that
Yeah.
primarily speaks one language or another, that sometimes I see people in the meeting on their.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
that.
like
too.
when we went to
Yeah.
94,
Yeah, exactly.
I
There were
think
people
the
who were-
principal did
Yeah.
reach out to the community. We had a big group of people sitting sort of in the front and they were on their phones.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is going to the
To the
people,
schools,
Right.
which
yeah.
is why we go to the schools, which
Yeah.
most CECs do not,
Oh,
by the
really?
way.
They don't?
No, they don't. They stay in one place. It's kind of, particular the CEC 15 to go to all these different schools. And it's a heavy lift
Yeah,
for
I was
appreciate
gonna say,
it.
that's a lot
We
of.
appreciate you.
for our AA. Literally a lift.
Or an Uber?
Well, we have, yes, there is.
I was going with the other left.
But,
Dad
um,
jokes.
So
yeah.
good. That was good time.
Thank you.
But, all right, with our last couple minutes, I'll just turn it over to our treasurer to just update us on where we are.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the overall balance looks fine. We have plenty of money
I'll share my screen.
remaining. In fact, I would say, you know, the end of year deadlines are gonna be coming up, and so we should be thinking about if there are budget lines that we haven't yet spent in, that we intended to spend in, and if so, we should be doing that very soon.
I think have we hit the deadline on
past it?
spending, yeah, we can't spend on we can't use any of
No
our
equipment, yeah, no computer equipment. Yeah, look at that deadline. The deadline for purchase orders is on Friday.
It's on Friday.
Okay, so it'll just be P card stuff
Yeah.
and reimbursements.
Something to make note of
Mhm.
for the next council. We might need a new printer.
Okay.
And it's too late for that now, right?
It is
Yeah.
too late for that now. We can't make any budget amendments and we can't use any. The only thing we could do is a member could purchase it and then get reimbursement. That we could do.
Mhm.
So depending on the cost of the printer, Shanice, and how dire is that situation with the printer?
Yeah,
Is dire?
no,
Oh.
because I can use the
Because you can
printer,
use that,
just not color.
just not
Okay.
color.
Yeah.
Well, if you wanna look up the cost of a new printer, let me know and maybe I'll buy it and just get the reimbursement. Yeah.
And the money doesn't carry over, correct?
Correct.
No, it all goes back to the DOE.
Okay.
And in the past, we had tried to like give it to the district with the intention of earmarking it for books for schools or whatever, and it never worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
They just wouldn't allow it.
Well, could we do, not that I'm gonna shell out $17,000, but, like, could a member or members purchase things for the district and then
Yeah.
get reimbursed?
Depending, I mean, I've seen, so like District 16.
Like a gray,
District 16 has an event every spring where they, like, it's a family fun day. And all of their CEC members use their additional like reimbursement money for personal expenses to fund this event.
Mhm.
But, I don't think we haven't planned such a thing and
Mhm. Interesting. Mhm.
Can you still, request reimbursement to
Yes.
Johnson?
Yeah.
What's the deadline for that?
Let's say June 1st, but I would say.
May 1st.
Yeah, it just always takes some time, and so even if you've got, you know, one last small one to do after that date, if we can have the bulk of them done, before that final month, I think it would be helpful. Is that accurate?
Yeah, because, the last day is June 6th,
okay,
right, for,
and do internet too, like
Yeah,
internet
Yeah.
and phone, you can do up to $75 for that. Per month,
Yeah.
before June, so before June 1st, yeah, or earlier.
Yeah. Mhm. And that's it. for
So did the district use up their entire line for their events?
Yeah. No, I
No.
don't want to answer that untruthfully,
Okay,
so
all right, well,
not yet.
okay. So, all right, let me know. Next time. But at this point, we can't spend any more of it, right? They could, I mean, you could issue a purchase order this week. For them.
Yeah. Right, no, they didn't use it up. They're using $4,036.
Oh, so they're close.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so they, we are really sending a lot of money back to the DOE.
$564 remaining for the district.
We haven't used a lot, and I feel like a lot of people haven't done reimbursements.
They haven't done reimbursements, yeah. Yeah, I mean, whoever is manning the helm of this council next year, I mean, you do need to have the bulk of your budget in reimbursements because your members are entitled to it and it's gotta be there if they want to use it.
Yeah.
The council can vote to say we'd rather use this for something else, but you know, it's gotta be a conversation and everybody has to agree.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's it. That's it. All right, I am going to adjourn this meeting at 8:27.
Good meeting, everybody.
Yeah, good meeting, everybody. I'm actually really glad we had all of that time to talk to the doctor and
Yeah.
to Principal Kavanaugh about SCA. So that was,
Yeah.
I think that was worthwhile.
And Robert, the highlight of the meeting.
Yeah. Happy Passover and Easter and Buona Pasqua, as we say. So enjoy your spring break, everybody, and we'll see you at the next meeting at the end of April.
It's great.
Hopefully we'll have some nice spring weather again.
Next week, we're supposed to.
Yeah, next week?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good.
You don't like 30-degree weather?
No.
Good night.
Good night, thank you. All right. Signing off, everyone.